Good. Good, good. All right. So that section, if you flip the pages there, just some housing ideas. That's for you. And I just want to introduce you to what we're going to do right after lunch. Your next section is, what color? Is it white? It's white. I want to talk, we're going to transition into actually selecting heritage poultry for production. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do in a condensed version. I'm going to give you the facts and walk you through this. And then right after lunch, we're going to handle some birds. Everything I'm going to give you right now is going to apply to the birds that we're going to be handling. I'll just tell you, one of the most exciting pieces about what will happen after I give you this content and after we eat and start handling birds, you will never see a chicken the same again. Even when I left Pat's yesterday, I was instructing her how to. That's right. Seeing the, I was showing her how to judge combs and how to look at their backs and look at the heads of the birds. And she's like, I will never ever look at a black Ocelot male the same again. Okay? And that's the goal, is that you will, because so many times people will look at a bird and they go, it's a chicken, that's a chicken, but that's a white one, that's a brown one. And hopefully you will really begin to kind of look at the bird and the skeletal structure and everything about the bird. Okay, so I'll give you this, and then when I finish this up, we'll take a short break, and by then lunch will be here. So we'll get your stomachs going here in about 33 minutes, all right? Or right around here. Session 4, top of the page. I'm going to tell you here on selecting for meat qualities and rate of growth. So we're not talking about eggs right now. We're talking about a chicken that produces meat. Okay? A dual-purpose chicken and or a meat bird like a Cornish, a dark Cornish, a white Cornish, those standard breeds. Don't get that confused with a Cornish cross. So we're talking about selecting for meat and rate of growth. Rate of growth is very, very important. It's the idea of actually following how quickly a bird grows. Now we're talking about a slow growth rate. One of the things that the old timers at Virginia Tech, Paul Siegel, these guys who helped create the Cornish cross, they tell me, the idea of how fast, what we did is we put too much emphasis on rate of growth. We didn't care about other parts of the bird and other qualities of the bird, and now we just ended up with this massive obese chicken and or turkey. But rate of growth for us, it's part of the big picture. It's just not all of it, okay? So a couple of things. Key, skeletal structure is everything about a bird. Chickens and turkeys, even ducks. Skeletal structure is everything. Now a couple little husbandry points here. Shorter body means fewer calories used for warmth. Less feathers, I'll give you the blank and then I'll explain. Less feathers means more calories for warmth. So, I don't have a picture of a Wyandotte. If I was doing PowerPoint, I'd show you. But a Wyandotte, do you remember where I said it was developed? Upstate New York. What's it like in New York? It's cold. Okay? So a Wyandotte is short bodied this way and deep this way. Okay? So, now, when a chicken eats feed, okay, it's eating feed kind of sort of for two reasons. To stay alive, to stay warm, okay, to part of that kind of slash stay alive, stay warm, slash production. Alright? So a Wyandotte that's short body and has depth of body, that has wide feathers, is going to be warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer. If it has a narrow feather, this Wyandotte that you get from these hatcheries, when it has a narrow feather, it has to eat more feed in the winter to stay warm. What that can tell you is you're eating more feed, you're producing less eggs and less meat, and so when we're breeding birds, and when you look at the ocelots that Jennifer and Patricia have versus an ocelot from a hatchery, the width of feather is drastically different. With I would look over the shoulders of these old timers, poultry judges. You know, they're in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, and I'm in my teens and 20s, and they're like, look at the width of feather and the wing and the width of feather, and I'm like, width of feather, width of feather. Finally, when I started paying attention to production several years ago, I was like, width of feather, duh. It's not just pretty exhibition, put them in the county or the state fair. Width of feather is a huge part of production. So the wider the feather on that bird is going to tell you what kind of production that bird, what kind of rate of growth that bird is going to have. Okay? Less feathers means more calories are being used to keep that bird warm. Okay? Does that make sense? You're connecting the dots. Good. I got one head nod. All right. So let me just talk about body. First and foremost, number one when we talk about meat production is the head of a chicken. The head of a chicken will tell you everything. I put skull width. That's the blank there. A wide skull on a chicken is a strong indicator of good growth potential. If the skull is narrow, you might want to underline this, the rest of the bird will be narrow. So whether I'm working with Sharon with her Delawares, or Pat with her Oscelors, or Rocco with his Buckeyes, we're talking those are three dual-purpose breeds. Alright? I want a wide skull on that bird. Because if you have a wide skull, you'll have a wide body. Almost guaranteed. Narrow skull, narrow body. Okay? I'll just kind of read the, fill in the blanks there. If the skull's narrow, body capacity, that's your blank, is controlled by the head. Okay? A narrow head means a smaller brain. You know anybody has a smaller brain? They don't learn how to roost as quickly. They don't learn how to eat as quickly. They don't catch on. All right? And you say, all turkeys have small brains. I don't agree with that. People say turkeys are stupid to go out and look up in the air and go and drown and all that stuff. I don't know where you come up with that. Are your turkeys smart? They're smart. All right?
When the hunters are like within 20
That's right. Yeah. If you think turkeys are stupid, try and hunt them in spring. The head houses the nervous system. Okay? So when I mentor you as a breeder of chickens, ducks, geese, or turkeys, or any of those, you will learn significantly about heads. The head of the bird. If I put one of Bub's Barred Plymouth Rock heads next to a head that comes from a large hatchery, you will see night and day difference. Night and day. And we're going to get some birds out, and I'll try and get Rocco to find some wide heads and some not so wide heads if we can do that. Okay? Make sense? Question. Okay, number 2 is what we call the heart girth. Alright? I'm really bad at drawing chickens, but I'm going to try and draw. Okay, if I got a wing here, this is the wing. The heart girth, we begin to put our hands right down between the wings, and we feel the width of the back all the way back. Alright, this is the tail, this is the head up here. Okay? This is heart girth, and we'll feel some heart girth when we get some birds out and handle them. Heart girth is an indicator that there's enough space for the internal organs to be of good size, maximizing the bird's growth and development. It's really pretty self-explanatory. Okay? Number 3, flat back. The wider this is, the flatter the back. Okay? Want a flat back. Any idea why a flat back would be important? Gives you more room. But another thing, I'll expand on that. You take this bird, lay it on its back. What's pointed up? What's on the other side? The breast. Okay, so wider the back, wider the breast. When you process that bird, you lay that out. Okay? I just got an email from one of our Chanticleer breeders in Central Coast, California. She said, Jim, I gave one of my partridge Chanticleers to a chef that she did not like it. She said it was scrawny and she just she didn't like it. All right. And by the way, we'll talk about marketing later today, or to wrap up today. those chefs will be all over the place and go, I'm used to 37-day-old Cornish cross, you know, but there are also chefs who say, I believe in the heritage bird, you got to cook it, you know, and so, but what I'm getting at with this is presentation. We got to get those Delawares back to where they once were, get those Buckeyes and those Port Chanticleers so that good flat backs. We turn that bird over and we got width of body or width of breast so that your consumer and the chefs go, oh wow, that's pretty. That's a pretty nice bird. Now I'll also tell you the same exact genetics of that Partridge Chanticleer. I had a farmer just on the border of South Carolina and North Carolina came to a workshop he did over east of Charlotte. And he said, I'm buying all these heritage chickens from big hatcheries and no one likes them. You cannot find me a carcass that's presentable. He said, I'm here to find out if I can really produce a carcass that my customers who come to my local farm will buy a heritage chicken. And I said to Carson, the little farmer, Carson's 12, 13, I said, Carson, go get one of your Partridge Chanticleers out of the fridge. They really dialed in on the feeding program. And he came out, and Carson knew what it was all about. And he found a beautiful carcass of Partridge Chanticleer. And I don't remember this farmer's name, a sharp guy. He goes, that looks like a Cornish cross. That's a Partridge Chanticleer. You know, there's the and again, but where I'm going with that is we gotta select those birds and get back to producing that bird. So back flatness and length. A flat back makes it more attractive carcass. Good length and width contribute to the quality of the dressed bird. Flat backs are a good indicator of good bone development in a bird. Generous length and width of back are indicators of longevity, vigor, provide ample capacity for satisfactory egg production. Number 4, body depth. As with heart girth, this aspect of the bird's body indicates whether it is ample or restricted space for the internal organs. Okay? A body type is thickness between the back and the keel. Okay? Okay. Here's the part, Plymouth Rock. Okay? Now, basically, we're talking about body depth. We're talking about right here. From the top of the back to the bottom of the keel bone or the breastbone. Now, I want you to see if I took and just looked at the back half of the bird. That's where all the egg production organs are. Okay? So, very, very important, we talk about body depth and talk about egg production, is how much space is in the back half of the bird. You take her leg, go up from her legs, straight up, the back half. If you got a bird that's scrawny and doesn't measure much, and you'll understand it more when you handle a bird, or try and find a bird that doesn't have real good depth and one that does. Now, it might be a little bit hard because all we have is his breeders here right now. Birds that we selected. So body depth. Number 5, breast and keel. The keel is examined for straightness and length and for good carcass appearance. The amount of meat on the breast will ultimately drive the bird's appeal to the consumer. Okay, now on the bottom there's some very key other points.
What was number 5?
Breast and keel. K-E-E-L. This is how you keel. That's the breastbone or the keel bone. Okay? Couple other points for you to think about. Okay? Appetite equals rate of growth. What in the world do I mean by that? The more they eat, the more they're going to grow. So when you see birds, okay, when I say, Jennifer, we're selecting rate of growth, keep an eye on it. She's like, as you spend time with your birds, okay, she says, male number 46, I pick him up and I'm like, this is a big bird. She goes, he's always at the feeder. That's a male you want to use for breeding. I mean, one of the things that we want to look at. A bird that's, scrawny and kind of not doing much, slow moving around, it's called vigor. We'll talk about that in breeding. No vigor, we don't want that bird to breed. So birds that eat a lot, that's why the Cornish cross is such a wonder, a genetic wonder. It's like, man, they did that right. And they eat and eat and eat and grow and grow and grow. Okay? protein equals rate of growth. That's why back in the feeding section I tell you at the minimum percentage, protein is what makes your birds grow. So you want to keep it, I'll tell you, there's an organic feed that's advertised in even magazines out here called Modesto Milling. It's in California, and they're shipping organic feed all over. Chris, who's the lead sales guy for this organic feed, I said, Chris, will your feed put the weight on our birds in 16 weeks? He's like, don't use our feed. All we're marketing our organic feed for is going after the farmer, the backyard farmer who wants to have their organic eggs. They don't care about breeding, they don't care about rate of growth, it's not important. And what I mean by that is if you're going to try and develop a business and you're going to try and grow these birds with good meat on them, pay attention to protein. All right? White feathers, I already explained that. Okay? And size. All right? Yesterday when I'm with Pat and her pen and black Australorps, she's like, she's been watching them. Trust me, she watches those black Australorps a lot. Okay? She's dialed in on who's big, who's not. So she's pointing them out. That's a male I noticed was really big, and we pick them up. Okay? And a lot of times we weigh the birds. Okay? If you want to just make a note, okay, the best time to weigh a heritage bird, we weigh them at 8 weeks and we weigh them at 16 weeks, ideally. And I'm in the process of trying to train our farmers more to do that. For an example, Sharon has Delawares. Okay? Let's just say at 8 weeks, she has 4 males, and one is 5'1", one is 5'3", one is 5'4", they're not going to be this big, but one is 5'6". Okay? Alright? At 16 weeks, okay, this drastically changes. Alright? It tells us that from 8 to 16 weeks, that's where that rate of growth has changed. Alright? Or vice versa, these could be drastically, they might vary anywhere from 3 pounds to 6 pounds. Okay? First of all, we want to do everything we can to get away from that. Because we need uniform. Alright? And so that's, weighing the birds is a very, very important part of size. So back to that is when Pat goes, Tim, I've been watching that male, that's a big one, let's pick him up. We weigh him, we're also looking at his comb, we're looking at his skull, we're looking at his width of back, etc., etc. Okay? Question? Yeah, anybody weigh birds? Live birds? What do you do?
I'm on Craigslist, bought a little electronic scale and got a little box on it. It gives you the weight real quick before they decide to pop off. And you just sit them there and by the time they figure out what that they can get out of it, it's already that way.
Yeah.
I paid $50 for one of Craigslist.
You really, I have seen farmers, yeah, I've seen farmers use every scale that is out there. And I really don't have one that, for turkeys, we have, Rock when I did it, we hung them right over there in the tree, and they hang just for a moment. It's great.
That's what I did this year. I used a Lansing.
Yeah.
I used a sleeve of a structure.
Uh-huh.
And I put a sleeve over
That's
it.
great.
Just keep it contained and put it in Lansing. But it didn't give very accurate results.
Yeah.
We do that.
Yeah. I'll just tell you this. If you're a breeder, you cannot weigh too much. Okay, so you might say 8 weeks, or, turkeys I probably, Rocco, do you remember how old they were when we weighed our turkeys here?
4 months, wasn't it?
That'd have been 16 weeks. That's what I think that might have been when we first weighed our turkeys here. I would go much earlier than 12 on the turkeys. Any 28 weeks. Okay, turn the page. Let me just give you these blanks. How are we doing? Good. That was rate of growth of meat. Now eggs. Okay? Selecting for egg production. This is awesome too. Okay? Because If you have 10 chickens and you're getting 8 eggs, we can go in and assess who's laying the 8 eggs. All right? If you have 20 hens and only getting 8 eggs, there's a whole bunch of retirement going on. And you can pretty much, there's some things you can learn and you can tell who's producing and who's not. All right? Some may need to go to South Florida and spend permanently. Okay? So selecting the Hogan Principles. That's from the book, if you want to write on the top of this page, The Call of the Hen. Walter Hogan's Principles from way back, 1920, I think. It's one of the books in the top 10 list. If you can find that book, it is worth investing in. I've given you his principles. Now, I do want you to notice that I put in that first paragraph. It's important that these principles are applied to mature hens that are in production. They're the same age and the same type. Okay, this is really fun. When I come out on the farm and they got Rhode Island Reds that are 2 years old, Dominiques that are 6 years old, and all birds of different ages, and they go, who's laying and who's not. These principles are best applied when Pat says I have 70 black Australorps. They're all the same genetics. They're all hatched the same day. These are when these principles are most effective in assessing your flock. Does that make sense? Okay. So, these principles are used. Number one, wide spread between the pubic bones and the keel bone. And I'm going to show you, I'm really just giving you the classroom stuff here. Pubic bone should be of medium thickness and be flexible rather than stiff. Extremely stiff or thick pubic bones indicate that the hen is not laying. The next blank, thickness of individual pubic bones should be a 1/4 inch thick or less. And also with the pubic bones around the vent, I'm going to show you where they're at. And 3 fingers or more should fit between them. All right, that's where, that is, since this is my tail, those pubic bones are the 2 bones where the egg comes out from. All right? When she's not laying, those bones are closed up. When she starts laying, they open up. Okay, and they stay open while she's in production. Okay? They will also they'll be soft and pliable. You can pick chickens up that haven't been laying for a while. They're about that far apart. They're really sharp. They're really stiff. Okay? The other thing is that if the very tips should be only curved in just a very little bit. And you'll handle them and go, really? You can tell? You can tell. It's not hard, all right? The farther they're turned in, you women will get this better than us men. The farther they're turned in, what is it, and what could that mean? You get it?
It ain't happening.
It ain't happening. Okay, listen. A hen who has a hard time laying an egg is just no different than a woman who's had her first child was a tough one. I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. Hens are the same way. You can track it. Okay? We have, Hogan's whole book is on when those pubic bones are curved in and that first egg is a killer for her, she'll quit. And you can actually then, you don't want them straight out, and you don't want them, they need to be pliable, and you can actually assess your flock this way for egg production. The keel bone, breastbone, the distance between the capacity for egg organs. So these are those 2 bones, and then also that keel bone that runs underneath the bird, this distance to these bones right here. And I'll show you when we're handling a bird. That's what I'm referring to there is the keel bone, pubic bone. The distance indicates the capacity for egg organs, 4 fingers or more. It's not usual. It is not unusual for a high-producing leghorn to have 6.5 fingers back there. Okay? Great egg producers. Okay? Molting ability on egg production. Birds that molt all at once are preferred. Okay? It's kind of like this. I'm going to lay an egg. I think I'll take a few days off. Lay another egg. I might drop a few feathers, quit laying for a couple of weeks. Kind of going through life. Got these people feeding me all the time. Drop a few more feathers. Who in the heck? Somebody is not producing in this block. That's what you're thinking. They're real slow. It's very, very common in these hatchery-produced or poor egg-producing quality birds. Okay, you want a bird that molts all at once. The quicker the molt, the quicker they get back to laying. I get calls and emails all the time. My chickens are bald. They're like, what's wrong with my birds? They've lost all their feathers. Are you getting eggs? Yeah, I have 20 hens. I get 19 eggs a day. Great. They're working hard for you. Hard-working birds don't look very good, especially this time. You know, when I'm looking at our breeders, your breeders from Delaware, I'm like, man, they look nasty right now. About all your birds this time of year, they're just going through a hot, exhausting summer, and they were producing for you. You got birds that really look good right now, they're probably like, hey, I'm hanging out in the shade and going out to the beach, you know? So, see, your eyes are your best management tool. I can just come and hang out with your birds and kind of begin to tell what kind of birds we're dealing with here. Preferred molt to occur later in the season. Mid to late September is ideal. That's assuming that, you know, that they were hatched early in the year. Caution, a late molting hen will be out of production for 6 to 8 weeks. If she's molting for 6 to 8 months, get rid of her. All right? Do not cull during September to November because you risk culling your best layers. To retain your best egg layers, ban the birds or identify that wait to molt till September or October. They drop nearly all their feathers at once. Those are birds worth paying attention to. They grow nearly all their wing feathers back at once. Okay? Molting ability is huge when we're assessing your flock for egg production. Number 3, abdomen. It's soft, pliable. Abdomen is a good sign of a healthy hen. Sometimes a hen will be found that has a very good spread between the keel bones and the pelvic arch, but also has a hard abdomen. Such a hen is likely has a cancerous tumor, though occasionally an egg is mistaken for such a hard lump. And I'll show you the abdomen when we go and handle some birds. Body capacity, the space between the body of the chicken is filled with various organs. When one section of the body is narrow or lacks space, the organs that are in the area must be reduced for space and thus tend to function below optimum. Okay? Fill these in. Characteristic of a hen that's in production. She'll have a large, bright comb. She'll have a bright, large wattles. Her pubic bones will be flexible and widespread. Widespread between the pubic bones and the keel bone. You're still going, what does that mean? It'll all, hopefully lights will go on when we handle some birds. A large, moist vent. All right? Rocco, you got buckeyes that are laying and not laying probably, right? So, it's real, and I teach this all over the place. You know, I don't know who came up with the name vent, but that's what it's called. So when that hen starts to lay, that vent it'll be opened up and it'll be very moist. And when she quits laying, I know we're getting a little graphic here, but she quits laying, it'll kind of pucker up and it'll be dry. Okay, and you can look at every one of your hens and it'll be one or the other. Okay, so large moist vent, large soft abdomen, and then a hen that's out of production. It's just the opposite. Small dry comb, small wattles, pubic bones that are stiff and close together, pubic bones and keel bones that are close together, a puckered dry vent, and a small hard abdomen. Okay, I just gave you a lot of content, classroom stuff, but just questions before we go any further. But any of that content or clarification? Yes?
In out of production, is this on a seasonally basis you look for this?
You can pick up a hen at any age and apply these and look at these things and be able to tell if she's in or out of production at any age. It's different than what I was saying the page before. See, when you let's just say with Jennifer, or I'll use past flock, they're all the same day hatch. So this is a huge advantage. She has all her osculars born April 15th? June 10th, excuse me. So, all her females that start laying early, it's really helpful. She knows. Hens that start laying late. Now, when they're, she's got some that are 4 weeks old, some are 6 weeks, and you got all different ages, they start laying, you go, well, you can't really say X bird started laying earlier than, you know, old bird. No, it might have been an older bird. So there's always those advantages to raising birds the same age so you can monitor egg production and rate of growth, et cetera.
Or egg production. You can use these same principles once you have a mixed flock and tell which birds are.
Right, this particular thing. Yes, yes.
Question.
Yes, sir.
On number two, you said under mulching ability, you said the birds that molt all at once are preferred. You mean like the whole flock?
No, just,
Or just the bird gets it over with?
that's exactly right. The bird that gets
Ongoing
over.
molt.
Yeah. Yeah. Never will your flock all, if you get your flocks dialed in,
I was gonna say, I'm in trouble.
you are amazing. Yeah, maybe.
So what if we have a hen that doesn't meet the criteria? Like, we had one that, a month ago, just went completely bald. Like, we came in one day and she was denuded of feathers, and then they all grew back and she's blooming again, I think. And
Wow.
she didn't go out for 6 weeks or 8 weeks. She didn't stay bald for, I mean, how long was she bald?
She wasn't bald real long.
Yeah.
I mean, just like overnight, when she came in, there was just the little quills were sticking out of her. She wasn't like skin, just like the little quills.
That was one of those ideal hens we're talking about.
Even though it happened in, what, July?
Yeah, that's like in the middle of something.
So I guess what if they don't meet all 3 criteria? So what if she molted all at once, but it wasn't in September?
Well,
Is she a keeper?
you gotta remember this, okay, is we have to look at when those birds were, what their age was,
So she was 18 months?
okay? Here's the first molt. 18 months is perfect, okay? If I hatch them in February, basically, I don't wanna see them molt until the fall of the following year on a good bird.
So they were born in what, June 3rd?
So-
June, they're a year old, they were, I guess, 13 months old. They're
Yeah,
18 months
so
old.
she may have molted about right on schedule, and it had to be with her birth, or excuse me, her hatching, you know, and she did it quickly, you know, I think that was a good
She's a
bird,
keeper.
yeah,
She's nice, too.
yeah. Any other questions?
That's her age.
Yeah.